Hey there, I'm Dr. MD Alamin Sumon. I am from Sir and Doctor's English, my YouTube channel. Today, in this lesson, we're going to learn how to answer the what questions who. Do you know it? What is the best way to answer the what questions who? Actually, we know these what questions, we're using these what questions, but we don't know what is the best way to answer from different sentences, different questions made by who. Okay, in this lesson, we are going to learn it. So, don't waste a moment. Sit down with your pen and papers, get ready. Let's go. Okay. We have what questions? What questions who? Who? Actually, by the what questions who, we can find out three kind of questions in English. And three kind of questions, you know that according to the three kind of questions, you will answer three kind of answers. Okay, and how to answer these three kind of questions made by who, we have to do it. And you can find out a lot of questions with WH question or what questions who, and in what way we can answer these three types of what questions with who. We're going to practice it. Okay, now take a look at this is a box, what questions who, and rules for answering. In three ways we can answer the what questions who. I'm telling everything in details. Okay, first rule for answering of what questions who is one number definition of a person, and in number two we have person's name. This is one kind of technique, and this is the answer for next way of what questions who. Okay, in third number we have person's identity. Person's identity may be the answer from what questions who. Okay, and in three ways what questions who may be asked, and in three ways may be the answer of what questions who in the place of who. Okay, before talking about how to answer this what questions who, I have written 4 or 5 sentences, and from a broad passage I have taken over 4 sentences to be clarified, to understand and in what way we're going to answer it, and you can answer it. Okay, just I'm going to read through these 4 lines. A poet is a person who studies and creates poetry. A poet is a person who studies and creates poetry. By this sentence, we can understand that it is a definition of a poet. Okay? And take a look at it in the second line. A poet may simply be a creator, a thinker, a songwriter, or an author who composes poems, oral or written. This another sentence has been included after the definition of poet. It is also another definition of poet, so we can take 2 sentences as a definition of a poet together. Okay, now in the third sentence, Qazi Nazrul Islam was a creator. Okay, after the definition of a poet, I've taken our national poet, our great poet, Qazi Nazrul Islam. Okay, Qazi Nazrul Islam was a creator, a thinker, a songwriter, or an author. Okay, take a look back in the first sentence. A poet is a person who studies and creates poetry, and the next sentence, a poet may simply be a creator, a thinker, a songwriter, or an author who composes poems, oral or written. Here we go. Take a look at it in this sentence, in the second sentence. A creator, a thinker, a songwriter, or an author. These are the characteristics of a poet. So these characteristics exist in Qazi Nazrul Islam. That's why we can consider Qazi Nazrul Islam as a great poet, because he has a lot of characteristics as having a poet. Okay? Now, in third number, I think with the last number, he is our national poet. Actually, by this sentence, we can understand that our national poet, this is the identity of Qazi Nazrul Islam. Qazi Nazrul Islam's identity is our national poet. Okay? Now we have finished reading through the passages. We can learn a lot of things from these 4 lines. Now, according to the passage, there are 3 questions with who. Okay? Here we go. Questions and answers. In questions number 1, who is a poet? Or who is called a poet? Who is a poet or who is called a poet? By these 2 questions, we can understand that it is demanding the definition of a poet. Okay? So, with the questions who, number 1, it is demanding the definition of a person. The person goes to a poet. So, instead of a person, here we go, we have a poet. Who is a poet? Who is called a poet? These questions. And when we are going to write down the answer, we have to think that by this question, what is meant? It is demanding definition of a person, or it is demanding person's name, or it is demanding a person's identity. But actually, we got that. By these questions, we got it. It is meant and it is demanding the definition of a person, the definition of a poet. That's why from the passage, we have to take the definition of the poet, because in this passage, take a look at first sentence. A poet is a person who studies and creates poetry. This is the sentence by which you can understand. It's the definition of a poet. That's why, according to these questions, who is a poet, we can write down this sentence as an answer. So I wrote it. Okay, I'm reading through it. A poet is a person who studies and creates a poetry. That's enough. And who is a poet? This is a question. And according to the questions, the answer is a poet is a person who studies and creates poetry. Okay? By this question, it is demanding the definition of a person. Okay? Now, moving on to the number 2. Here another question with who. Who was a creator? Who was a thinker? Who was a songwriter? Or who was an author? Okay, here we go. Take a look at. Okay? Here the question word, we have who, but by this question, there is absent here the person's name. There is the person's names in these questions. Who was the creator? who was a creator, who was a thinker, who was a songwriter or an author. There is no person's name here. So by these questions, instead of who, we have to use just only the names. Instead of who, we have to use just name. And okay, we are looking back to our passage. Here we go. There is a sentence. Qazi Nazrul Islam was a creator. Qazi Nazrul Islam was a creator, a thinker, a songwriter, or an author. Okay, take a look at this line. Okay, and after verb and to the full stop, this person is matched with these questions after verb. Take a look at was a creator, a thinker, a songwriter, or an author. Okay, it is a fully similar. Now we got it that in second number the rules for answering person's name. So by these questions it is demanding that we have to write down person's name. That's why only instead of who we have to write down Qazi Nazrul Islam, because in the passage it was written Qazi Nazrul Islam was the creator. That's why instead of who I wrote it Qazi Nazrul Islam, and after this random person I have written it. Okay, so it would be the answer. Qazi Nazrul Islam was a creator, a thinker, a songwriter, or an author. Who was a creator, a thinker, a songwriter, or an author? Qazi Nazrul Islam was a creator, a thinker, a songwriter, or an author. That's enough. By these questions, we understand that it is demanding person's name. That's why instead of who, we have to write down Qazi Nazrul Islam. You got it? I think you got it. Now this is the last questions with who. In number 3, we have who is Qazi Nazrul Islam. Take a look at. Here we go. This is the what questions who, and in these questions we have Qazi Nazrul Islam. Person's name we have person's name, but follow the box. Here we go in number 2, person's name. Actually, person's name should be written in answering questions who. But we're looking at that in these questions. We have Qazi Nazrul Islam. Person's name is in these questions. Now what will happen? Now don't worry. Here we go. If there is person's name in what questions who, that time keep it in mind that there is person's name. That's why we have to think another way. We have to think that we should take person's identity. By these questions, it is demanding person's identity. So it is very, very clear to everybody that if you look at any kind of questions, in that questions, if there is person's name, we have to think that we have to take in number 3 person's identity. It is demanding that person's identity is needed in this answer. Okay, we should take it. So Qazi Nazrul Islam, in while answering this question, Qazi Nazrul Islam, I wrote it, and after that verb is, and who is Qazi Nazrul Islam? By these questions, it is demanding that person's identity. I think Qazi Nazrul Islam's identity is demanding here. That's why I'm looking back the passage. This is the last line. He is our national poet. Our national poet. This is the identity of Qazi Nazrul Islam. That's why instead of who, I have written our national poet. So Qazi Nazrul Islam, this is the subject. After that verb is Qazi Nazrul Islam is, and Qazi Nazrul Islam's identity is our national poet. That's why I wrote it. Qazi Nazrul Islam is our national poet, and our national poet has been used instead of who, and this is the answer of what questions who, and who is Qazi Nazrul Islam. instead of these questions. According to these questions, the answer should be here. Cardinal Islam is our national point. Keep it in mind. If there is person's name, that time we have to take person's identity. If there is no person's name, if there is person's identity in that questions, we have to take the person's name. Keep it in mind. So I think all things have been clear to you from today. Practice it, and this is very, very important because you know that you are the students from primary level to higher level. It doesn't matter. Okay, just practice it. And how to answer the what questions who in details, I have narrated it. And if you have any question, please let me know in the comments. I am waiting for your prompt reply. So get ready to write a comment below. I'm waiting for you. Enjoy this video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.